Shalom. Call Limelight Yahweh Bashem. Yahweh Shai Bashem. Kakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And a sincere shalom to the 144,001 third. Now just gonna go over Jeremiah, the 12th chapter. Right, relatively short. So straight to the point from the top. Verse 1. Righteous art thou, O Yahweh, when I plead with thee, yet let me talk with thee of thy judgments. Wherefore doeth the way of the wicked prosper? Wherefore are all they happy that deal very treacherously? Yeah. And this applies heavily to these Edomites. Because Esau, these past 500, a little bit over 500 years, actually really longer than that, because you have the Renaissance, which was 14th century, 1300s. So it's been 700, a little bit over, or just about 700 years of this devil, these Edomites, having some type of authority, long-lasting authority on the earth. Thou hast planted them, yeah, they have taken root. They grow, yeah, they bring forth fruit. Thou art near in their mouth and far from their reigns. So the Most High Yahweh is not executing judgment upon the wicked at this very moment. They've been prospering. Esau has Canada. Really, Esau has all the Americas, right? Because the Northern Kingdom ain't running Latin America, right? You got a small hat president in Mexico. Look what's going on in Brazil, in Argentina, okay? So they got all the Americas. In Greenland, yes, Greenland is a part of the Americas. It's not a part of Europe. They got all the Americas. They got New Zealand. They got Australia, South Africa to a certain degree. They got Europe. They got parts of Asia. They got our land, the Holy Land, right? So from the looks of it, it controls Saudi Arabia to some degree. Okay, the House of Saud supposedly has ties back to the small hats, Amalek. They have Russia, okay, and then they subjugated other nations like China to a certain degree, Japan, especially Japan. That's the most recent one that had a very prominent impact because they dropped the Fat Boy, Little Man, whatever, those bombs, fire from heaven. Let's get that. Let's go to Job first. Was it Job? The 9th chapter and verse 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, wherein who is he? So, yeah, the Edomites control the world, right? The Europeans and their colonization, right? So-called white people or Caucasians, Europeans. Those are Edomites. Those are the biblical Edomites. All right, how do we know this? Through prophecy. All right, the Edomites, through prophecy, would be control of the earth. They would take the identity of the Israelites. They would subjugate the earth. They would subjugate the Israelites. They're wicked. All right, and furthermore, Edom, all right, means red. Red. Okay, they're red people. The Edomites are red people. All right. Another sign is, which I already made mention of, but right here in the verse, he covers the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So the wicked are people that control the earth and cover the faces of the judges. So who are the judges? I mean, it's obvious. Yahweh, right? Who the world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. The angels, the Elohim, all right? And the Israelites. Those are all the judges. And if you if you go to 90% plus of people on the planet Earth, those numbers have shrunk because the truth has been released. All right, that seal has been broken by Yahweh Shai. Okay, so if you go to most people on the planet Earth throughout history, all right, and now, they're gonna assume that God is a so-called white man the only begotten Son, the so-called white man. The chosen people are so-called white. All right, those small hats, the tiny tops over there. All right, that's covering the faces of the judges. All right, which is also blasphemy, by the way, because having pale flesh is leprosy. All right, it's a sin. So you're saying the Heavenly Father is a sin. So you devils have been caught up. You know, these scriptures um, have really done a number to you once you get hit with the true gospel. This is Revelations, the 13th chapter, and verse 13. Verse 12. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose daily wound was healed. This is going to the Roman Empire. And the revised Roman Empire is the Edomite rulership, primarily Babylon the Great. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth and the side of men. What is that? These bombs. All right, Fat Boy, Little Man, or whatever that hit Hiroshima and what was it, Nagasaki or whatever. That's fire coming down from heaven. Now let's go back to Jeremiah, 12th chapter, and verse 3. But thou, O Yahweh, knowest me, thou hast seen me and tried mine heart toward thee, pulled them out like sheep for the slaughter, and prepared them for the day of slaughter. Yeah, the Most High Yahweh, see if I can find that. Oh, I see. This is Psalms, the 37th chapter, and verse 12. The wicked plotteth against the just. Actually, verse 11. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. The wicked plotteth against the just, and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. Yahweh shall laugh at him, for he seeth that his day is coming. There you go. So you so-called white people, all right, that have lineages that go back to the Edomites, because you know, so all so-called white people aren't Edomites, through the mixture of seed with other nations like Israelites and other heathen nations. You may have a so-called white person, but in reality, he may go back to the Elamites, right? And you could have a so-called white person, he may go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, okay? But for the most part, when you see so-called white people, all right, the majority of them are what they look like, right? They're Edomites. Verse 4, Jeremiah 12:4. How long shall the land mourn, and the herbs of every field wither, for the wickedness of them that dwell therein? And that's that's talking about the Israelites suffering, the planet suffering. Okay, the beasts are consumed, and the birds, because they said, he shall not see our last end. If thou hast run with the footmen, and they have wearied thee, then how canst thou contend with the horses? Yes. So if you getting cooked by regular people running, sprinters, right, marathon runners, if you're getting cooked by them, how are you going to handle the horses, which are superior to the footmen? And if the land of peace, all right, so a very peaceful place, wherein thou trusted, right, so in an area like a neighborhood, a city, a town, where you trust the town, you trust the people in the town, you trust the infrastructure, right? They wearied thee. So in a place where it's easier for you to prosper and you still get tired out, okay, then how will thou do in the swelling of Jordan? So Jordan, all right, I don't know too much of the history, but this is, about, what was going on in Jordan, but it couldn't have been very, very prosperous for the Israelites, particularly Jeremiah, for this to be written. For even thy brethren in the house of thy father, even they have dwelt treacherously with thee. Yeah, they have called a multitude after thee. Believe them not, though they speak fair words unto thee. So you got to be careful. Someone can come to you speaking real good, real nice, but guess what? At the end of it all, they're going to backstab you. Verse 7, I have forsaken mine house, I have left mine heritage, I have given the dearly beloved of my soul into the hand of her enemies. All right, this is the curses from Yahweh. Mine heritage unto me as a lion in the forest, it cried out against me, therefore I have hated it. Therefore have I hated it. Mine heritage is unto me as a speckled bird, The birds around about are against her. Come ye as assemble all the beasts of the field, come to devour. My pastors have destroyed my vineyard. They have trodden my portion under foot. They have made my pleasant portion a desolate wilderness. They have made it desolate, and being desolate it mourneth unto me. The whole land is made desolate, because no man layeth it to heart. So guess what? The Most High Yahweh did a number to his people, and he's still doing numbers to us. But guess what? This is not going to be forever. This is going to come to an end. Let's get this Daniel the ninth chapter, verse 12. And he hath confirmed his words which he spake against us and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven have not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem. So the Israelites, which is a sign of who the Israelites are, would be hit with the most evil, the most wicked acts than any other group of people on the planet Earth. And you've seen that, right? With Christopher Columbus. You know, when Christopher Columbus came over here, okay, which it's being revealed more as is more recent information, all right? It's not very historically passed down that when these Spaniards came to Latin America, that we call today, Brazil and Panama and Ecuador, and so on and so forth. When they got there, okay, they saw cities of gold and people prospering and the temples and the architecture and all these cities, and they saw all this stuff, right? Like very prospering, the 12 tribes prosper. I mean, Salakia, the 10 tribes in Northern Kingdom prospering with wealth. They saw those things, and then they came, explorers saw that, then they left, and then when they came back, they didn't see nothing, like new explorers. And the people that said they saw those things were called liars, because some of the stuff that they saw, when the people came to those areas, they didn't see anything. Why? What happened? Those Edomites that showed up, those Spaniards, and all these other Edomites, okay, mainly the Spaniards, when they got there, okay, and of course you had the Portuguese and the Spaniards, and it was I think the Dutch or something like that. When they got there, they had smallpox and all these other diseases that totally wiped out whole entire cities. Jake got totally wiped out. The whole city got wiped out. Right? 99% of people died. And the people that survived pretty much fled the cities. And then since nobody's left over with the cities, the Amazon rainforest and all that grew over the cities. It made it basically invisible. And they're using radar or LiDAR. They're basically Esau sending sound waves or whatever, and they're able to spot the architecture, because the whole entire city got wiped out from disease from these Edomites. And then on top of that, they got subjugated, their heritage stripped from them, and put the new heritage of Esau, Edom, right? His culture, I should say, his language, his clothing, his way of life, his religion. And then even worse, right? Even worse than what happened to the Northern Kingdom, you have the Southern Kingdom get brought over here through the transatlantic slave trade from Europe and West Africa. Now, the mainstream media, they don't tell you about so-called black people for the most part in Europe. Now, if you go to Europeans, they know history. Like, they know that what so-called black people were in, like, the UK and Germany and all these other areas, called Moors and Israelites and whatever else, okay? But for the most part, pretty much everybody on planet Earth knows about the transatlantic slave trade, right? So-called blacks being kidnapped and sold and stolen from West Africa primarily, and then shipped to the Americas to serve hardcore chattel slavery. And then once that ended, Jim Crow and more oppression, and then we're here now and still under oppression. So that's the evil under heaven that nobody else in recorded human history has faced. Okay, and who is responsible for this? Who is the only one that can be blamed on the earth for these atrocities? The so-called white man. Now let's get this in Romans, the 9th chapter, and verse 17. For the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even to the same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might shew my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. Okay? Therefore hath he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he hardeneth. Thou wilt say then unto me, why doeth he yet find fault for who have resisted his will? So guess what? The Most High Yahweh, and of course, for further context, if you read up, it's talking about the Edomites, but I don't want to dive into all that. I want to keep this video relatively short. But Romans 9:13 on down, it's going into the Edomites being risen up, and they're the new modern day pharaohs. Esau's been blessed with the sword, right? What is that? Genesis 27 chapter, around the 40th verse. Esau was blessed with that sword, okay, and he used that sword to bring about wickedness. Verse 21, have not the potter power over the clay of the same lump? All right, so when you look at how pots were made with clay, they have like a thing, and they spin it and they mold it with their hands to make it any shape they want. All right, and that's what Yahweh did, but he does it on the utmost level. Yahweh can think or whatever, right? And he can create Israelites. He created the heaven and the earth. Well, of course, it was Yahweh Shai and the elect, but who created Yahweh Shai and the elect? Yahweh did. You understand? Have not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel into honor and one into dishonor? So the dishonorable vessel is the Edomites, and the honorable vessel is the Israelites. Simple. Okay? And look what has happened to the honorable vessel. We've been dragged through the mud, figuratively and literally. And look what's been happening to the dishonorable vessel. They've been given all these goodies for centuries. So what's going to happen when the Most High Yahweh brings forth his wrath upon the dishonorable vessels? Verse 22. What if the Most High, willing to shew his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering? So he's watching all this wickedness go on. The vessels of wrath fitted to destruction. So what is that going into? That's going into these Edomites getting their just deserts. They're not going to escape their judgment. All right, they're already catching hell now, and it's going to get worse. So let's go back to Jeremiah, the 12th chapter. In I'm going to start at verse 10. Many pastors have destroyed my vineyard. They have trodden my portion underfoot. They have made my pleasant portion a desolate wilderness. They have made it desolate, and being desolate, it mourneth unto me. The whole land is made desolate, because no man layeth it to heart. The spoilers are come upon all high places through the wilderness. For the sword of Yahweh shall devour from the one end of the land, even to the other end of the land. No flesh shall have peace. And guess what? You had 70 AD with the Romans. You had the Greeks with Alexander the Great, his 4 generals, so on and so forth. Okay? The Hellenization of the Israelites. Verse 13, they have sown wheat, but shall reap thorns. They have put themselves to pain, but shall not profit. They shall be ashamed of your revenues because of the fierce anger of Yahweh. Thus say Yahweh against all mine evil neighbors that touch the inheritance which I have caused my people Israel to inherit. So this is going into these Edomites, man. They took the heritage, Ezekiel 36, right? And I believe, Ezekiel 35. Joel, 2 or 3? Right there, I'm naming off the top of my head. Okay? The Edomites took the heritage of, the Israelites. The Edomites, those tiny tops, though, they are not the people of the Lord. And Esau subtly, all right, tries to put all so-called white people being the 12 tribes, which again is blasphemous. It's all being exposed. It has been exposed since Abba Bivens on down. And the social media age has pushed it dramatically. Okay? Verse 14. I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to start at right here. That touch the inheritance which I have caused my people Israel to inherit. Behold, I will pluck them out of their land and pluck out the house of Jehoiada from among them. And it shall come to pass after that I pluck them out, and it shall come to pass after that I have plucked them out, I will return and have compassion on them and will bring them again, every man to his heritage, being a no people to being called what? Let's get that. What is that? First Peter. First Peter 2:9. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should shew forth the praises of him who have called you out of the darkness into his marvelous light, which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of the Most High, which have not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Boom. Jeremiah 12 and verse 16. And it shall come to pass, if they will diligently learn the ways of my people, to swear by my name, Yahweh liveth, and as they taught my people to swear by Baal, which is Satan, then shall they be built in the midst of my people. But if they will not obey, I will utterly pluck up and destroy that nation, said Yahweh. So guess what? What does it mean to learn from Yahweh? First and foremost, faith works, all right? And a part of the works is keeping the law, statutes, commandments to the best of your ability, all right? So to break it down, having faith in the names, all right? Having the true names, having faith in the names, having hope, prisoners of hope, all right? Faith, hope, synonymous, right? Works, pushing the truth with all truth and sincerity, keeping the law, statutes, commandments to the best of your ability. There you go. That's all it is. That's simple. It's not easy, don't confuse simple with easy. It's simple, not easy. All right? And what's the outcome for these Edomites and these other nations? Simple. This is the outcome. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter, and verse 3. That then Yahweh thy power will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations where Yahweh thy power have scattered thee. All right? So we're going to get our land back. Verse 7. And Yahweh thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and of them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. So what does that mean? What is that going to? That means all this evil, right? What was that? Daniel 9 and 12. 9 through 11 and 12. Daniel 9, 11, and 12. That's going to happen to our enemies. And even worse, right? Esau, you're going to get it worse than we got it, because you're going to get excommunicated, right? Pursuing the book of Obadiah from the earth. So with that, Adawan Ratazah, this is edifying. Shalom.